which is another crew that's going to go ahead and investigate this, unless they don't care about their car.
Okay, you can certainly do that.
I can't wait for the secondary adventure of the insurgents agents in that town.
Then I need to find a phone.
Okay.
Because I need to call the British police.
Uh-huh.
And report that Captain Shaw's been kidnapped.
Sure. Okay. You can do that.
Yeah.
It's not like
it's
not like it's gonna happen.
All logical things.
Oh no, I'm just making notes of everything you're doing is all.
Yeah. I mean, and remember, I'm just saying things like, I'm not saying anything about a weird pox or anything like that. All details can be verified. That Captain Shaw got a bunch of people together and went on an adventure to Kingsfield. I'm saying he's been arrested, and I'm going to go ahead and I give them my contact information because I own a hotel with a servant, so I'll give them that as my contact information. Because even if my criminal empire gets investigated, Captain Shaw is enough of my friend that if I have to collapse the empire, and go scorched earth for that, I can't let Captain Shaw nor this mass murder thing abide. Tell the authorities about that. And I guess after that, I'm gonna limp to go find a hotel because I need a bath.
Okay. Okay. I think as far as goes, we're going to call it there for today.
Well, I also want to point out that I just set my car on fire and walked away from it.
Yeah.
We start walking away from it. The police are just like, all right, this guy's just burning his car. Just move the wreckage after.
Well, no, I mean I set the blowtorch on underneath the seat, so it will slowly catch on fire. So it's not obvious the moment I'm walking away from it, but it will catch.
Right.
He's got.
It's a lot more subtle than setting off grenades, and I don't want evidence tracing back to me that this car was me.
The police just assumed you were part of a razor gang.
Right, but it would be a lot more obvious if there were explosions going off in it, so this is my slow method.
But I guess that does leave Kerbin wrapping up his stuff and probably, James and Kingsley going back to London immediately, because they got the tickets.
So, I am so confused by your guys' characters. You've all built essentially.
Again, you went blank there. I don't know if you're still talking.
Oh man.
No, you said you all built essentially and then nothing.
Individualists, I said. You all seem to have built characters who are all about self-sustainability rather than teamwork. But that's to be.
This is the era.
I mean, I'm missing a vast array of things, and I lean on everyone else for that. I have a special skill that no one else could reasonably be assumed to have.
I'm a little confused when it comes to how this works as horror, because
you guys were supposed to do it in a different order. You kind of jumped straight in the deep end and then got discovered and then threw a grenade at the guy.
Right.
This is a very old. This module was written in the second edition and has been recently updated.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the way that was supposed to play out is you get to the town, you kind of realize that people are a bit weird here. You go to the church. The guy tells you about the story of the church, and he tells you about how the family have this long history of being greedy, being nasty people in general, not great people to be around. Then you would go and investigate the house. In the house, you would find signs of something's been living here, some kind of large creature. And then, of course, that would eventually unravel into you meeting the Englishman who would pursue the party as you're investigating the lake. Of course, there's nothing in this module to stop you from just going straight to the lake, as you guys did.
Well, with the main hook, leaving in that direction and our desire to try to find him. We actually found that information.
Yeah, see, I gotta flip that around by saying, like, the only reason we went to the lake was because we saw two people leave and go to the lake. So we followed them. So why the... Right. So I'm confused why you thought, like, you're surprised we went to the lake. Of course we went to the lake. The one person that we had a contact with snuck out a window and went to the lake. So that's why we went.
I'm not surprised at all. I kind of, upon reading through everything, I guessed, oh yeah, they're probably going to follow the guy. I'll see if the module has any support for that. It's like, oh no. But the problem is with it, if I change any location of a character at a single time, I could break everything.
Well,
I don't want to break
that
everything.
is often a failure of some of these adventures because they seem that they're written with anti-emergence in mind. Like, I don't know why in a million years they would think we wouldn't follow him. Why wouldn't we? He's the guy we actually came to see, and when he like goes crazy and disappears, I don't know why the adventurer would think we wouldn't go looking for him. I mean,
I think
boggles
the
my mind.
adventure. I think the adventure thinks that you're going to place your meeting with the church guy above seeing the guy you were here to see. It's very strangely written. Like I said, this is a very old module, just for getting our feet wet in the system. But God, is it so poorly written? The amount of things I've had to change just to make it playable is ridiculous.
Well, the fact that I'm still a little confused why the villagers had to bring out a bunch of elephant guns or shotguns and shoot us. Like, I'm confused why that happened.
Oh, that didn't happen.
Oh, so James wasn't shot?
No, I went alone to the lake to an underground area that was a catacomb where things were happening. And I even prefaced it by kidnapping one of them first to ask questions.
Right, which you probably shouldn't have done.
Right, but this was also in light of their own kidnapping.
Right, so but I'm also confused. I'm a little confused why you're still alive.
Oh yeah, that's more confusing.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, he didn't. None of that kidnapping the person or anything like that happened. That whole cavern is filled with psychedelic gas.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's why you do. So, in other words, I might not have even seen that huge pile of bodies.
Yeah, no.
Well, no, that makes a lot of sense. You have the weirdo rituals in the cavern that's so none of that might have actually happened. That would have been fine. It's like the Englishman just kind of like screws up the adventure because having them follow us around and confront us and that kind of stuff, it's just kind of like the Englishman is not weird. The Englishman is looks like a humanoid and speaks English. So they're not a monster. And there was the weird threats that they make.
I think obviously it's as far as nuanced 2019 horror goes, that was nothing. But I can imagine back when like first edition came out and like, you know, people were still buying things like this from the shop rather than off the internet, it would have been a bit spookier.
No, speaking,
I think maybe it would have worked a little bit better in the context of like everyone like constantly being horrified and self-serving for survival, because then it's like, why are we going to follow someone out into the middle of the woods in the middle of the night? Even if we can.
And I kind of
we were all playing on the pretense that we don't know that there's horror and acted as much as normal as we possibly could.
Well, first of all, if we're not going to play normal, like
exactly, I'm saying like playing normal wasn't what was expected. For sure.
I've complained about some of the spin-offs of Delta Green where everybody just wanders through and shoots everything.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I don't want to pull rank. Screw it, I am going to pull rank here. I've played Call of Cthulhu since first edition, so some of these adventures are better written. I think there are some. I was very excited about the prospect of investigating the cistern, because the prospect of going in this underground maze that could have had monsters in it struck me as it could have been filled with dangerous things where there were things hiding on the corners, not to mention
there is.
peril. Right. And
Yeah.
that's very exciting. So I
Mhm.
think the fact that the module feels like it has to pad itself out with, like I said, I do not understand why they didn't think we were going to go after the Doctor friend.
I think it's built around characters who are super self-serving, like you said then, like characters who only care about themselves and are only there for one particular reason. And this, that.
Then we wouldn't be on the adventure.
Yeah, it's really weird. But luckily, I have recently found an adventure that was written last year, and it is in a lot more detail, and it is a lot actually scary. And situations make a bit more sense. Like, zombies appear, players are gonna leave. They're not gonna stay. Why would they stay in a house when zombies are coming out the backyard, for example?
I mean, I have to point out that like even canon Call of Cthulhu stories, like everybody loves the Shadow out of Innsmouth, and that story is I have to leave town. Monsters are going to eat my face.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
halfway through they leave, and then on the way back, they start a war.
yeah, and then there's the Call of Cthulhu, which is we have to run. Cthulhu's going to kill us.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of these stories are I need to get out of here.
It just seems like this module. I think when I first read it, I was like, oh yeah, because I mainly read about the cistern. That is the bit I've done the most maps for and stuff.
Yeah, I was excited about that.
Cistern is fucking cool. It's like a dungeon. It's essentially like a D&D dungeon.
Yeah.
It's filled with all types of shit.
If not for the fact that guy, or those two guys went out to the lake with our guy, that was our next step. We were gonna go there.
Well, see, the Englishman undermines the adventure because if the Englishman didn't exist, but our friend was still missing, or even more so, Captain Shaw was still missing, we would then go explore the house and we would then go explore the cistern because our friend is missing. And even though there are weird things going on, and even with the hallucination of the giant stacks of bodies, there's no tangible threat. It's like our friend is missing. Well, was he kidnapped? Well, we don't know because nobody came forward and said they kidnapped him. Has he been shot or anywhere or he fell somewhere? We don't know. So that we would have gone investigate. By having a face NPC show up and taunt us, I don't want to stay anymore because first of all, this guy's apparently invincible. And secondly, now, yes, you've convinced me there's a tangible threat that can kill me and would overwhelm me. I'm not going to throw my life away because I don't think I could rescue Captain Shaw. Even if the Englishman is just a gang member with mundane gang members themselves, I'm not going to charge in guns blazing.
Yeah, the best you could hope for is like a 4v gang war. And that's not necessarily entirely winnable in and of itself as a realistic situation where, a gunshot is going to kill you.
So that undermines that's my problem. That undermines the adventure.
It's just written so jankily. Oh, hold on, by the way, I'll show you the first level of the cistern map because it is a pretty cool. I just want to show you the first level map with none of the tokens.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
You could, well, yeah. I mean, once again, it's there's a lot of these adventures have weird things in them, where one of the problems with a lot of adventures, and I've seen this across the time frame, is a lot of them are written linearly, where they think that the players are just going to be passive and just go from one place to the next place to the next place, and that doesn't work very well in horror because it
really doesn't.
Yeah, if we don't have any agency, we're not scared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a role-playing game. It's just I'm watching a number go down.
Yeah, essentially.
This is neat. I like the purple bulbs there. I'm guessing that's like the whatever infective agent they're working with or the thing that's causing the hallucinations.
Yeah, see, before when we were going to explore the cistern, this was going to be fun and spooky. No, I mean, if I had to say anything, it's having some boss monster show up and taunt us, turn this into a completely different...
Essentially.
Plus, also, I am a little confused why we're this well armed. That seems a little silly to me.
That's just
As far as like the 2 soldiers, it's like I just have a leftover pistol and that's it.
No, I'm talking about the elephant gun and the box of grenades. This
Oh
just,
yeah,
like,
that's just like 99 credit score excessiveness, which I mean we've covered before, but this is just like round 2 of it.
that it just turned into it. Yeah, it was just wow.
But
Okay,
yeah.
we're doing that.
But yeah, I'll tell you guys a little basically the whole gist. So the whole gist is, of course, you've got the Englishman who is a werewolf who has been terrorizing the town. The people in the town do not like the Englishman at all. They don't like dying, of course. So their whole thing is they found out that the family in the mansion had some sort of dark underworld connection. So they ransacked their house and they have been doing it for centuries to try and find what it is that had this connection to the dark. They found out that people have basically been eating this fungus that turns them into horrible abominations.
As you do.
The players arrive basically just as a big fight is about to break out between the werewolf and the village people. And essentially the conclusion is supposed to be you guys either escape and get out of there unharmed or die at the hands of one of the groups. Or there is options in there for like you guys joining one of the groups, helping the werewolf out to wipe out the village, or helping the people out and ingesting
what
this
a
thing.
turn that would be.
Why is there a whole other lake complex? There's a whole another dungeon in this adventure.
The separate one, the little so essentially that is meant to be just like a bit of a description I gave you guys. You find this underground bit. I decided to add a map to it for a bit of flair, but it's meant to just be like a description I give you guys as you walk through this place that's littered with bodies around a small lake, and then you find a building that's littered with more bodies, but actually it's not because there's fungus growing everywhere that's turning crazy. But I just added a bit of flair there.
All right. Yeah, I did enjoy the fact that there were period details, and I enjoy playing a period character.
I think the way it was just written so weirdly. that whole last adventure was written so weirdly.
It loses a lot of verisimilitude. It was
I don't know what that would mean.
Sense of reality.
Yeah, similarity to reality.
Right. Like I don't know why they think like our friend asks us for help, then our friend disappears. I don't know why they would think we wouldn't go looking for it. He's the entire reason we're here. He asked us for help. If he disappears, why wouldn't we go looking for him? I don't understand why they think we would.
Yeah, he would have to like disappear without us knowing. Which again is like you go to the church first to hear about that instead of checking in on your friend.
And even if he disappears without us hearing, like this is one of the things that frustrates me with these games. Track is a skill built into the game. So, and not to mention, I mean, we have a skill tracker with us, but like if track is a skill in the game, then it has to be something we're allowed to use. And so if he jumped out the window and ran off to the lake, the game has to accommodate for the fact that we would successfully make a track roll and follow him. If the adventure it makes that impossible and just says, well, I don't care if you pass your track roll, you can't follow him anyway, that would also be bad writing there, because I think basically telling don't try.
It actually, on that note, it did originally say that you can't track him. It says that his and the assailant's tracks are invisible, and I was like, no, they're not. That's just not realistic.
So yeah, that would be ridiculous.
I appreciate that. Like yeah, that's where I'm just going. Like this has hallmarks of a railroading adventure, and that is
of details I did like the way that you handled the villagers getting their stuff beat in the cave, the map where I died on, right?
Yeah, the period.
For a while, I was highly suspecting that there was some sort of magic spell used, because I'm aware that there's at least one somewhere where it's like transfer damage from one thing to another. So I was thinking, like, for some reason out of character, someone did this and then saved me for some purpose, and that's driving me insane.
I thought the same thing when I kicked the dude in the chest. I thought, I like a conspiracy theory, that every time we attacked this fake people, somebody somewhere else, like inside the maze, was getting like the damage that was being done. That's why we were.
When you put your foot through that vision.
Yeah, I thought maybe the bodies were like people that I killed somebody like, and because damage transfer or some shit.
See, I think that's
Yeah,
the
that would be
main
horrifying too.
that's the main thing that these stories like this need to get right. Most horror is imagination, you coming up with different alternatives to a situation and making it worse for yourself. You know, what's it called? Show don't tell. Yeah, like if I just tell you guys, oh, this dude's a werewolf, it's like, oh, cool, he's a werewolf. But like, if the Englishman was slowly introduced as this figure that the entire town knows, but no one dares name, strange things
Around a
happening.
corner, you see a shadow where like a tentacle lashes out. You turn the corner, just the Englishman standing there. It's like, oh, what the hell is he?
See, the problem is that horror is the opposite. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. That is a quote attributed to H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft, not knowing the answer, but I feel like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love
Right,
this
it
adventure.
definitely builds enough mystery here because like we didn't have a whole lot of answers most of the time until like the very end, I think.
We stumbled into it.
Well,
Yeah.
and also, like, I often feel like a spoiler in these kinds of ventures because I'm not interested in playing a suicidal character. So I usually don't enjoy these adventures for let's do something crazy or something emergent, or let's throw ourselves at the monster or the mystery because we have some compulsive mania to go ahead and solve it. I've seen that a lot. That's how I won the Call of
Yeah,
Cthulhu
like
tournament.
you had a reason like once Shaw disappeared to like go into action to do something. And I had the main hook, and I'm like, this is arguably my friend. I should be concerned for his welfare in some degree.
A lot of these adventures, especially Call of Cthulhu adventures, tend to tip their hand. It's kind of like if you make it look like overwhelming force, like you make it look like, you know, this is a because they make this mistake. Like everybody said, you know, Monty Cook will write about Cthulhu and Azathoth, they're so badass you could never stand against them. The problem is the reply to that is, you're right, we can't stand against them. So any person, you know, who wants to get stuff done would not do such a thing. And so I'm not going to throw myself, you know, as much as I like Captain Shaw, I'm not going to say, oh my God, I will stop at nothing to go ahead and rescue him, when I'm thinking, no, guns in this game do, you know, like you guys are surprised. Shotguns do 46 plus 2 damage and rifles do much. 1, 2, bang, you're out. And it's, you know, like we're not bulletproof. We're not super powered. We don't have luck points that get us through stuff. After a certain, if it's made, like that's what the problem with these adventures. If they tip their hands too much, then and the horror is not clearly defeatable, players will run away from it rather than, or at least smart players will run away from it rather than
Right,
engaging.
and getting players thrown away in the first place is already a hard enough thing to do.
I'm
situations where they can't or won't succeed.
Yeah, I'm willing to suspend some disbelief, but the fact is that you're, you know, I'm scared of the known unknowns. I'm scared of 4 or 5 hillbillies with guns. I was scared of them before I even showed up. And the fact that they might have some supernatural agency or something going on, you know, just scare. And that's the problem. Like, if I'm going to go ahead and commit suicide, that's not scary to me. That's a bad Dungeons and Dragons game to me.
Right. Like the thing that changed wasn't like, you know, werewolf threatening the town as much as it was like Scottish chainsaw massacre in the basement here. That's at the point where like we can't do this.
Well, I'm going to repeat. Yeah, the Englishman's the mistake, because having the Englishman confront us and be a tangible person tells me there is a reasonable menace, and Captain Shaw has been kidnapped. That's not a lie. Captain Shaw has been kidnapped.
I feel like if you guys would have found the corpses and then like if he just didn't show up, you just returned back to town, everything was normal, you would have been like, oh, what is that? What killed them? Did they kill themselves? Is it some ritual? Blah blah blah. You would have, but instead it kind of, you get back to town, you find this dude who's threatening you, and it's like, oh, he killed them. He's really tough. Let's leave. We can't fight this.
And the priest doesn't help, because the priest said this is a centuries-old menace that you would require like special things to combat, you know, and you can't do it. And it's kind of like, Okay, we believe you.
Bye.
Yeah, it's like now the proper way to do these kinds of protagonists is you have them be craven or weak. Like they have the weapons to do it, but they can't bring themselves to do it because they suck. Or
How could I
because they're
live with
corrupt.
killing another man? You, Mr. Soldier over there, who has no qualms with it.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
do you
which
think?
actually, which is a nice thing about 7th edition, because by making us immune, that's been one of my biggest problems with a lot of versions of role-playing games. It's like, of course we'll kill things. Why wouldn't we? So yeah, by saying like he has no stomach for it, or you can give him a physical infirmity, or you can even make him insane. It could also be that like one thing people forget about Dracula, okay, the adjacent, is that, well, Renfield is powerless, but Renfield is driven mad by what he saw, and he's an unreliable narrator. So when he's eating bugs or attacking people and cutting them open to lick their blood, screaming, "The blood is the life," that's a hint that Renfield has seen vampires, but he's insane, so he's unreliable, and you don't know what he's saying is true or false. He knows something, but not all of it. That's an example of showing, but then again, it doesn't let in on the details. And now that I think about it, that's grossly neglected in Call of Cthulhu. For a game where people can go casually insane, meeting insane, unreliable people would be a lot handier for solving the problems, instead of meeting people who speak from sort of knowledgeable authority that know more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Oh,
Plus, also, I feel a little bad because I'm often a spoiler in these games where I'm not going to, I'm not going to go to the police and say a giant monster destroyed our car. I'm going to go to the police and say Captain Shaw's been kidnapped. They say, what destroyed your car? I said, that's not important. Captain Shaw's been kidnapped.
I mean, I find that fine. I can handle stuff like that. I was mainly, because this is the first full-flung adventure I'd ran from Call of Cthulhu, I was trying to run it mostly from the book, which of course has been a obviously fatal mistake.
Yeah,
Right. You do have at least like enough improv within you that I think you salvaged this fairly decently.
You had some very good improv. I think
From like the very beginning, like I understood like this is a gun, this is probably some sort of magical silver bullet. That's why he has exactly one in the chamber. We get to the priest and like he dumps it in the garbage. Like we got to get that back at some point, but I have to excuse it somehow.
Yeah.
When you give us the box, and that was a good save.
Yeah, I think your improv was good. I mean, my advice is don't trust adventures, especially Call of Cthulhu adventures. Some of them are very, very bad.
I think the next one, that's if you guys want to continue playing Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, definitely. I'm having fun.
I'm looking at one at the moment that I'm basically going to just rip the fuck apart and build from scratch almost. I'm just going to tear this adventure apart and put it back together in a place that makes sense.
I mean,
because it's got a really good foundation. It's just it's got the similar issues to this. It has this scene where the bad guy, who I'll reveal to you now, is a zombie, is just there. You just see them, and it eats people in front of you, and that's in like the second session.
Yeah, that is all too common in like I've seen so many Call of Cthulhu adventures that has basically a cutscene, and I've seen that like all the way back to like the 80s and 90s, and then this thing happens in front of you, and then have you ever seen there's a comedy movie called The Gamers? Have you ever seen this?
No.
Okay, because there's a hilarious bit in it where it's a D&D parody, and what happens is the D&D the game master narrates, and then they cut to a reenactment of what he's talking about. And so the GM wants to have this bad guy like monologue. And the best part about it, you have to see this. Well, the bad guy is monologuing. One of the players says, "I shoot him." And then the GM says, "You can't shoot him. He has a surprise. You're surprised for 3 rounds." And the player says, "A round is 6 seconds. That's 18 seconds." And he pulls out his stopwatch and he starts timing it. And after the GM monologues for 18 seconds, says, "I shoot him." And it's hilarious, but it illustrates a problem with the Call of Cthulhu with tabletop role-playing games. If this is a video game, you could take our controls away from us and narrate a scene in front of us and make us sit there gormless while it happens. but a lot of these games have like scripted encounters. There was the one, I'm trying to remember the name of this Call of Cthulhu adventure. There's one where it says like on Dex rank 16, the people break in. On Dex rank 15, they throw the smoke bomb, and at Dex rank 14, they kidnap the professor. And what made me hilarious is, first of all, why are they acting on like rank 16 when they don't have dexes that high? And secondly, I couldn't run this adventure because at least half my players would have dexes higher than 14. Because
Yeah.
they would. They're player characters, and they know that you go in dex order. So they would intervene before all of this went off. And like they do this in the adventures. You're absolutely right. You can't depend on that, because otherwise you'll have to take our agency away from us. And if you do that too easily or too often, well, I can't speak for other people, but I'll lose interest. It's not a horror adventure if I don't have any agency.
Yeah,
So,
that's why I tried to avoid taking agency at all, in fact.
yeah. No, I think the improv of letting us explore and go to the lake. I think it's weird that they have a separate cairn in the lake. Why they don't just have the cistern?
Yeah, I
That's
think it's so like at one point it says like the characters are gonna want to take a break from the cistern because there's a lot of crazy shit in there basically. A lot of just straight up horror monsters. They don't really hurt you, they just exist.
This
Like
sounds not very good.
there's this like bird lady that you talk to who's like completely malformed and she's like half bird, half human. She can barely move. She's like a glob on the floor of feathers and skin, for example.
That
That's
sounds
one of
kind
my
of
favorite.
interesting. Yeah, I don't understand why they have all the stuff in the adventure that's not as interesting.
But then it's like the players are going to want to take a break from the cistern, and that's when they kind of like go back to the town. They realize, I think you're meant to leave, go to the cistern, come back, realize your friend is gone, and then track him after going to the fucking priest.
But it happens
That's
in the
you know
middle
what?
of the night, though. I mean, we were about to go to the cistern the next morning, and he gets
Mhm.
abducted in the middle of the night while we're there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah,
ran
actually, like
into-
the first time we were at the mansion, we went down, and I think we were going to do something, but we didn't have any light, and we just thought it was a generally bad idea.
we looked in there. We didn't have any lights. Plus, also, it was a bunch of water, and we didn't have any wading gear. So we did the most sensible thing. We looked down there and said, "Huh. Well, we tracked his mysterious thing to this cistern, and it looks like it's a like." And I made a miracle roll that rolled really big. So it's like, "Wow, there's a big underground complex here. Let's go get explorer gear and come back." Which was the most, I was totally willing to throw myself into whatever this was.
Well, Shaw's phobia was dark water, so he wasn't going down there unless he was well supplied and everything. That's why he was going to go back, call in supplies.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh, man.
and the adventure has very strange ideas. Like I said, I really don't understand how you're here to rescue your friend. By the way, your friend disappears, so obviously you'll go back in a dungeon filled with weird monsters rather than rescue your friend.
Yeah,
I'm not understanding that leap of logic at all.
that's why I did my best to salvage together, and we got a open and close story.
Yeah, you did your best here. Good job.
So, as regards the next story, rather than me picking it, I'll just basically let you guys pick the location. So, option one is a story that takes place inside a university where the characters are either students or professors at the university or other staff members.
We already got a hook right for that.
The next one, it takes place in a small village, yet again, except you're all residents of this village. And then the third one is a classic, you guys are all paranormal investigators, go investigate a thing in a cave.
Question before the choice.
Mm-hmm.
We're rolling new characters for a new game? For new,
You can.
I'm just wondering, because you're prefacing it with your students or whatever, or your residents of the village, but obviously
If you
we're
can-
not, so...
If you can think of a tangible link, I will let you keep the current character. That's fine.
Well, I mean, my current character would just be wandering into whatever situation, because you know what my backstory is and what I'm trying to avoid. Why I'm doing the things I'm doing and why I have the things that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm assuming you know. I sent it to you.
I've read through. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, your character can basically fit into most situations.
Yeah, because I'm wandering. And now I have
Actually,
very little possessions left in my name, despite being an extremely rich person.
that's a reasonable question about like the long-term sustainability of a character in the system, because there's not necessarily an end to them or like a point they get like too good or anything. But like the diminishing sanity that never recovers, I'm already down to like 65 out of 99.
Mm-hmm. I think the whole point.
That was a huge chunk.
I don't know much about the system's history and things like that, but it seems to me like the whole point of Call of Cthulhu's system is that you're just gonna die eventually. No
That
matter
is
what.
a very pointed criticism of the game. That even after the sanity mechanic came out, there have been critics of it since like day 2.
Really? That's a criticism? Because I was using it as a selling point. That your
there are-
character-
If it's sold like as a series of like one-shot things that happen, then it makes a little more sense, because like, oh, you don't need to worry about your character surviving then. But like if you're doing like a campaign of some type that carries from one to another, every character eventually retires. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I can. They're a little bit better about it than they used to be.
Mhm.
Because like one of my major issues with sanity was, okay, so I can lose sanity by seeing a monster, but I don't lose any sanity by bashing someone's brains in with a baseball bat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could argue that after they fall over dead, I saw their corpse, and that might scare me. But it's this weird thing of where you can throw dynamite into school buses, and as long as you don't see the aftermath, you're completely fine. And so that's one criticism of it, which is
Sane people don't look at explosions.
it's weird things happen, so you become crazy and lose agency, rather than what might be considered more of a horror of you've done things that are terrible, and then those come back to haunt you, which is a different kind of terror. But the also you wind up treating sanity like as a gas tank. It's like a hit point reserve that just goes down. And yes, you can eventually
Right.
retire the character.
I mean, the sanity examples in the books are usually blackouts where you have to find out what you've done rather than experience it firsthand, which is scarier in a way.
But doesn't make any sense, because how would that happen? I'm fighting a battle right now and I lost 12 sanity. Do I black out in the middle of the battle? But I'm experiencing it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think the examples aren't given in the form of a battle. The examples are given in the form of, I guess you see a dead body and you black out and you wake up later and why am I here?
Right.
What did I get here?
But that's also insane, because this is a party-based game. The only way that would work is if you were alone by yourself. Because if you saw a monster and then blacked out, but other people passed the test, the game would keep going, and your friends could tell you what happened during your blackout period.
Right, but I mean, the examples seem to be written in the way I read them anyway, in a I want to say Ars Magica type. You're doing things for long periods of time between when you're a party. Like the examples on researching stuff in the books. I'm spending 8 to 10 hours a day reading this book for 10 months. It's like, okay, well, I guess we're spending years between being a party.
Yeah. I mean, I know people make a lot of hay about how, your sanity drains, but it's not scary. It's just a hit point total going down. And like, I'm scared of a monster that might actually seize the car and tear it apart. Constantly draining my sanity points by being near it is just like
It's just the same as taking damage from it, realistically.
right. And it's not scary, and they wanted to simulate a way in the game that you would eventually retire your character, but a lot of it just comes off as like you have an adventure, it drains 30 or 40 sanity, and then you retire the character and then play another one. And they do make it easy to make new characters, but it's very much in the old tradition. I mean, as I'm also fond of saying, they didn't call them roguelike games back in the day. They called them games.
Yeah, I love roguelikes
Right.
with a passion.
So a lot of these games were, Sierra Online style. They expected you to die, and they expected you to die graphically. And that can be funny and fun as an emergence. But I think it's not very horror. Like just wandering in and then dying and then giggling about it. I don't know. I think sanity is an imperfect mechanic, and I think also some of the adventures are way too casual about it. Like as in they just start hitting you with sanity, and you just start draining, and it doesn't feel like I don't feel scared. I feel like my hit points are going down.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't.
There's a module I use in my 5th edition games, D&D 5th edition, called Darker, which I think does this really well, because not only does having stress, or that module's version of sanity, not only does having stress increase just exhaustion, it adds things to your character which negatively affect it throughout the game. So like, disadvantage on certain checks, negatives on certain modifiers. You gain traits and quirks and things like that as you play the game and you experience new things. And I feel like it should do that rather than just number gets bigger. It should make a tangible change to your character.
Well, there's one game that I think actually handles it pretty well, and that's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, specifically 2nd edition. In that game, you earn insanity points by, seeing a scary monster, but also anytime an enemy inflicts a critical hit result on you, you automatically get an insanity point.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can get insanity points from casting spells. But instead of having insanity be a reserve that slowly depletes, insanity is a number that goes up. And then there's an insanity check to see if it blows up and you go crazy. And that
right, it makes it more like stress building up to a breaking point.
And it feels a little more logical. In fact, one thing I think this game is really missing out on is they really could have had pushing. If pushing costs sanity, that would be hilarious, because it could just be the anytime you push a roll, lose exactly 1 point of sanity, and then make sanity relatively easy to recover after defeating an enemy. That would make me feel like I'm being exhausted. Like that would make me feel like that would encourage me to push rolls until I started to go crazy, and would make me an agent in my character becoming desperate. Like often, like the issue I have with sanity is I don't feel like my character's being harried or exhausted. I feel like the GM wants me to go look at a monster, and then I look at it and say, "Haha, you went crazy." And it was like, like I don't. There's lots of Call of Cthulhu jokes about how we don't look at the explosion, we don't talk to the people because they might gibber at us and make us go insane. We don't read any books because books might drive us crazy. So there's a lot of joking in Call of Cthulhu about how people who are meta aware specifically don't engage the game to avoid losing sanity. And that to me is like, it's not happening with you guys, but I mean, I can't help but think about that when I do the game, and it's like you can't discourage that kind of meta. You can't tell players learning more could kill your character and then say, by the way, you have to learn more.
Yeah, you just can't. That's not how systems and things work. I'm not going to go out and get my cards killed on purpose.
Right,
Fuck
unless
that.
I don't care. I mean, that's why I always repeat, like, if I don't care if I live or die, if I'm just here for a wacky adventure, which you can see a lot, then we can do that. But I was enjoying the reality parts of the game. I felt like we had a lot of 1920s details and a lot of the period investigation of we are characters in 1920s post-war Britain, and we're going to Edinburgh, and then we're going to an exotic place. All of those details and meeting all the NPCs and the cistern and the wilds. I loved all of that. It's when a monster showed up and tried to kill us that I think it just really, it didn't feel spooky anymore.
No. I think that's the issue with this this module, and in general, from what I've seen from Call of Cthulhu in general, from other, I read through about 10 or 20. Yeah, no worries. I read through about 10 or 20 modules before deciding on this one, because out of the ones that GMs and friends of mine suggest, this one seems the most tangible. One of them, you meet the monster in the first session, you witness the monster kill someone in the first session, and the module says that the players decide to stay in town to defeat the monster. It's like, no, they wouldn't.
It reminds me of like a video, a D&D video where someone's trying to read off an adventure and everything goes wrong. So he goes back and reads like a paragraph that says, and the players all decide that they are going to surrender themselves as slaves to the antagonist lizards that are in possession of the island.
Yeah.
They are all going to agree that this is a good thing and give up all their armor, weapons, and magical items. They will work as slaves for several weeks and then come up with a plan.
There's a D&D adventure, published D&D adventure where I remember we confronted, it's a desert, and for some reason there's a dryad in the middle of the desert, and she has like a forest grove, and we had the best GM because we just walked up to the dryad and said, "Listen, lady, all you care about are these trees, and we're not even here to fight you because our mission goal is to get the dwarvish mine, and this is an orchard, not a dwarven mine. So we're gonna go that way, and you're gonna let us, and no one's gonna harm anyone else." And the adventure is scripted that you get in a big fight, but the GM's credit said, "Yeah, that sounds reasonable. You guys can go." and it was, but like that adventure had all these different things scripted into it of this happens and then this happens and this happens, and our GM was just kind of like, that doesn't make any sense. So there's
a lot of built-in assumptions, like players will buy into exactly what's happening. For the Dragon Queen first adventure, players see a town under attack and they go in.
Oh
or
my God.
If they've gone in and they've done at least a thing and they're running low on resources, the book goes, and they keep going out to do all of these things. Like,
that's my poster child of bad adventure, because that was like after D&D 5 came out and everyone was complaining D&D 4 doesn't let you play an evil character. So D&D 5 comes out and half of us are evil characters, and then it's like, oh no, this village is being oppressed by the Tyrant Queen, and we just look at those. Yeah, it's like, why would we care? The game said we could write down evil on our sheets. Why would we care? And the adventure like never even remotely entertains that for any minute you would do anything but defend this village against the Tyrant Queen. And it was like I get that they would want that, but it's kind of like there's that weird opposition of you can do whatever you want, by the way you're defending against the Tyrant Queen. No, I thought the adventure had a classic hook, which was rescue the friend. And I thought, I don't want to be a spoiler here and just be, a jerk for the sake of being a jerk, but really, but we keep harping on that. The thing that undermines the adventure is like, and then for some reason they don't care what happened to their friend.
I get the feeling that there's no implied way to ever possibly save that character.
I think the real trick, and this is difficult, but the real trick to making a horror adventure successful is you have to the players should come to it with some amount of curiosity, that they should be wondering what's going on. Because I did care about the cistern, but the trick is to not tip the hand.
I mean, I was 100% in on that windowsill.
Windowsill?
You don't remember? The windowsill with the salt, and how the fuck did he get out the window without opening it or some shit? Why did he break the window if he could just open it? Or
yeah, that was a mystery. And like,
I was on that the entire session. I was 100%.
Was he fully in control of his faculties?
Yeah.
Was he insane? Was he being controlled? Did he have
that's what made it spooky.
Blackmail material? Was this weird infection turning him to a werewolf that caused him to obey commands? We don't know.
Right, and like, yeah,
that actually made me think, like, with the hand injury that was mentioned, that's like, oh, I bet I've been infected too.
For a moment, I thought you guys,
that was right. Okay.
Well, that would have been awesome. Yeah, no, for a moment, I thought this was going to be a ripoff of The Stress of Her Regard, which is a vampire story, and it was like, I mean, like, if he went it, like, we're in the middle of Scotland, possibly in a thin place like Kylie, and maybe the fairies or something that passes for fairies, some otherworldly force that only manifests in certain places is here. And maybe one of them beckoned to him and he didn't want to go, but he's crazy. He already cut off one of his own fingers, for crying out loud. And I was totally sold on that. They didn't have to introduce Godzilla.
He's just gone from Englishman to Godzilla now.
Maybe the module would be interesting if we just say like, all right, and then suddenly the earth quakes and you just see like a blast of fire off in the sky. But you still have to deal with the werewolf.
I mean, Shaw was just going on and on about trying to figure out which mythological creature he thought it was based on every little clue that came his way. So
yeah, that was a fun little bit too.
Yeah, there were a lot of fairy trappings. I mean,
all my answers from that, by the way, were completely me like knowing things about monsters and piecing it together from how I understand Shaw.
Right, but I don't know. I personally don't know that much about mythological creatures of that type. So I was just working on, well, what does Shaw know? And that's me asking you. And then every time you gave an answer, all I would do was, collaborate that with all the other answers you gave me, so I could start whittling it down.
Mm-hmm.
So when you would be like, you couldn't whittle this down, it's like, well, yeah, but I can respond to the third thing you told me and the second thing you told me to make sure it's not the first thing you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really spooky. It's just it was really spooky until it turned into something else. So yeah, no, I was having a lot of fun. I also really like my character. So
I really liked all of your cards. I think you all had really cool.
It really
ideology.
felt like one of those, epistological adventures, like a Dracula novel or a Polidori novel. It really felt like that kind of old school Gothic. Let's go rescue our friend. More so than a lot of these do. Like we used to have a joke. I forget which one. There's one Cthulhu adventure that opens with, and your friend, Dr. Breakstone. You haven't really been in touch with him since college, but if anything bad happened to him, you would crave vengeance. And like that's
crave vengeance.
That was the wording of the book for the rest of the session. That's all we could talk about. What was like, I don't know Breakstone that well, but if anything did happen to him, I'd crave vengeance. Oh, completely understandable.
Now that he's
all right.
Now that he's gone, I'm filled with I don't know what this is. Nostalgia? No, it's not nostalgia. Longing for return? No, I think that's still nostalgia. Revengeance. It's revengeance that I want.
So why did you want to take up engineering? Oh, revenge.
Revenge. Typical reason. It's just like man, even the Mountains of Madness has like insane things. I remember Mountains of Madness has a path. You have to, in order to work this, you have to move an object along a path that's drawn on the floor. So you have to like slowly move this object along, and you're there with a crazy person, and who can eventually tell you like we have to move an object along this path. And it's like, well, what do we have to move? And he says, I know, a human heart. And then immediately starts to like pick up knives and stuff. And said, are you sure it has to be a human heart? Can we just use like, my wallet?
I mean, can I just stay in my chest? Can I crawl along the floor, chest to the ground?
That's the Doom Train one. Oh my god, that is one of the better ones. That's when you're on the Doom Train. But that's another story. No, I would be I would like to try it again. I do enjoy the game more where sociable people engaging other sociable people. If we're gonna wander around carrying elephant guns and sticks of dynamite and grenades, I've already played Delta Green. I'm not as interested in that.
I just let this character slide because I knew there was only one session of the module left.
Okay, well,
well then I've just lost all my possessions anyway, so most of my weapons I'm carrying. Okay. So if something happens to me where those are gone too, then all I have left is nothing.
Well, I mean, you got a 99 credit rating. You know
my backstory. You know why that doesn't apply. I've told you my backstory too.
I mean, you would still have like the daily spending cash. You could definitely get something.
Except that I've got no way to access that.
I think another major mistake that a lot of the adventurers make is they often make an attempt to escalate. And the problem is they escalate to the point beyond reason. They escalate.
I think that is this module's main issue. It's not the fact that the Scotsman. I think Englishman could have been a really cool character if you met him at the bar before you knew any of this shit was going on, and he just had a normal conversation with you as an NPC.
Yeah, he's just some dude.
Slowly piece together. Oh wait, this guy's masquerading the entire fucking town. That would have been like
that would probably be like an almost genius hook where you try to lure people in with the like, oh yeah, this is the crotchety old man giving you the quest, isn't it?
Well, no, he could just be a friend too. He could be somebody's helping us out, and he turns out to be that guy at the end.
I don't even understand why he's necessary. There's a cave filled with weird fungus, and our friend is chopping off his finger. I'm not even sure like why he's necessary.
I guess because like it is the infection that's spreading around, basically.
Yeah, but the infection is I'm not even sure why an infection is necessary because it's not a supernatural menace.
Because werewolves, that's all.
Right.
It could also be a red herring.
And I'm also. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. The infection was their fight against the werewolf. He doesn't attack infected people. Like he doesn't like eating.
The World War Z movie.
He doesn't eat tainted meat.
The zombies don't like people with cancer.
That's what I'm infected with.
And I think what would make the adventure more interesting is if we don't know, like the people know there's a werewolf, but they don't know who it is, rather than everybody knows this is a werewolf and he wanders around town with impunity. That would make it more interesting. That would be clues to figure out. Number one, the werewolf doesn't attack plague people. Number two, who is the werewolf? That's a mystery to solve.
In the middle of trying to lynch random people out of fear.
Well, they might, or everyone's suspicious of everyone else, and they might be suspicious.
Party members.
I feel like they made an entire party game with cards and everything about figuring out who the werewolf is.
Yes, if there was such a game.
Right.
Yeah, like a whole concept based on figuring out who the the werewolf is.
Special roles.
Yeah, but that would make the adventure compelling.
I do like somebody boiled down the entire thing you want out of this game, and they made an old game with it.
Right.
One might even make a whole game about the mafia too.
What's it called? The one of the best written characters in this module, though, to give it some credit, is the priest. The guy in the church, Alan. He's got like so much fucking backstory that GMs can work with, and he knows basically everything that's going on.
Shame he locked himself away.
Yeah, he locks himself away because he's the only one in the town who isn't infected anymore. Basically, he's like the only one who hasn't eaten the fungus because he's not fucking stupid. He doesn't want to go crazy. So that's the reason he's locked in all those barricades and stuff.
Yeah, but the people in the town aren't crazy. They're actually pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
So it
to an extent. They would need like a whole lot of characterization in that direction where it's like, and this guy, was like constantly has his eye twitching at you as he talks, or the shopkeeper literally just never says a word and doesn't even move.
Crazy,
except
right?
Like his hand to take your money.
They're crazy, all right. Crazy about fungus.
I wish, yeah. I mean, that could have fallen to me a little as well. I think if I would have characterized the village people a bit more, it would have been a bit cooler. Basically, the village people are all fucking not so much batshit crazy, but they have this, insatiable desire to eat fungus.
I mean, subtly crazy is scarier than regular crazy. I mean, over the top.
As like a DM to DM thing, like that would be just like another thing to juggle.
If we wanted to investigate the mystery and the people were telling us to leave because they didn't want us to take their fungus away, that would also be a compelling adventure. But the problem is like the adventure says, and you'll just wander into the cistern. You can just do this freely. No one stops you. It's not guarded. You just wander into town and just start exploring their most sacred place, and no one stops you. And in fact, you'll do this multiple times, so much so we assume you'll actually get, and I hope you guys are sitting down, you'll actually get bored of the adventure.
Well, I mean,
and we'll have your friends
frequent fire miles.
To be slightly fair to that, we did show up and go to the cistern at the same night. People didn't even have a chance to look at us askew.
No, I'm not understanding how the adventure would say, "Hey, if your players are bored," I don't know why your players wouldn't go through the whole cistern in one night. I don't know why they would leave and come back.
Oh, it's too damn long. It's a good like 4 or 5 sessions.
Right, but I mean, we could get in there before anybody tried to stop us.
Yeah,
right.
So
and we wouldn't leave and come. Why would we leave and come back? You only leave and come back if you're in there for more than 8 hours and have to go eat and sleep.
And it's really not like that large to take that much time for sure.
When you arrive,
every square is actually a mile.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that. I can understand if like you had to go there and something happened and then it stopped and you have to come back the next night during a certain window of time. But no, you wouldn't. We wouldn't go into it. Like, they think it's a dungeon. We wouldn't go into a dungeon, explore a few rooms, and then go back to base camp to heal, and then come back in. You wouldn't do.
Go back to base camp to get your spell slots back.
Yeah, I mean, like this is Call of Cthulhu. Nothing's saying he doesn't come back. We're not.
I mean, unless one of us gets really hurt and we have to drag them out, and then we
I've been sitting on like 1 point for a little bit, and I don't know how that's going to come back.
Yeah, and then in which case we never come back.
Yeah, in which case you either never come back or you don't come back for weeks because this is a 2nd edition game and it takes weeks to heal because this game's not for sissies.
In which case we're taking weeks to heal, and obviously we're not going to try and heal here, or we are, and somebody's just not playing the game.
Yeah, no, my warning would be that if you're running any pre-published adventure, don't trust any of them. I mean, I know I'm angry Rafferty, but I will say all of them have bad ideas in them. Even the critically acclaimed ones, like Mountains of Badness, have bad ideas in them that are just every tabletop game. Man, this, I know this is I say this because it's a cell phone. Tabletop games are written by people not good enough to write for computer games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
also side thought, Raph. Side thought, Raph. Unskippable cutscenes for Vital Hearts.
Oh, I've deafened myself. Hold on.
I said, side thought for Vital Hearts is we need unskippable cutscenes where the bosses become more powerful and you can't stop them.
I do that to you. But that's
I think
also...
you actually did it at least once.
Wow, I can't...
like to bring them out.
I can't remember you ever saying, you can't stop this is this cutscene.
Well, I haven't had a 2 or 3 stage boss yet. No, I did. During the when you guys went to the Castle of Fog, I said like the woman on the high tower says, "Y'all curse you! None of you will get here!" And she throws decay on you, and there's nothing. And none of you said, "Oh, well, I'm going to try and shoot her because I can see her up there on the tower."
Oh, I thought you implied that she was outside of it. We only heard her, couldn't see her.
Well, she's in the deep fog. Yeah, but your player characters. Just because
I think probably the only reason I didn't attempt it was because A, panic, 2, the situation, and 3, I needed someone else to be standing adjacent to
Well,
her.
when I'm saying like cutscene, I mean like the guy in front of you is doing something, and you say, "Hey, I want to do this." It was like, "Can't. Sorry, it's a cutscene. You can't interact." I mean, that's like the one instance of a game that it would allow a cutscene that you couldn't stop.
Yeah, well, it's also popular in anime where you can just freeze frame and something like something that should only take like a fraction of a second is like a giant monologue.
Yeah, because you have to have their internal voice, and for some reason they have to do things while their internal voice is going on because you think at the same speed that you do things.
Well, there's also the huge debate of like like when the two guys like debate each other, where like Cell will say, "Aha! You think you may be able to stop me, but I haven't even gone ahead and tapped into 20% of my true power. Eventually, all this like, shut up, kill him."
Yeah, as he's talking, just like.
And this is what you call Super Saiyan that's gone Super Saiyan. It's like, oh god,
I mean,
another episode for this.
You'd be surprised how much text you can fit in when you're charging up a Kamehameha wave.
You've just been screaming there for an hour.
So it's
Look, man, my spirit bomb is not yet complete. You're gonna have to take a couple more hits for me.
Yeah, I need you guys. Well, that's a different debate, but yeah, no, I would say you've been a really good game master with this. I would tell you, please trust your instincts. They are. I mean, I just feel. I mean, I went out and wrote some horror role playing games because I'm so mad at Call of Cthulhu.
One of them takes place in the same era.
Yeah, Well, because I'm not happy with the way that's set up. Although Chronicles of the World of Darkness for a while was my favorite, and there is a new version called Chronicles of Darkness, which fixes a lot. So I am kind of stoked about that. But the period detail and the mysterious exploring of the ruins and the fact that it was being treated seriously appealed to me a lot. I would like to see more of that, and I would also like to keep playing Kerman because I will say that I enjoy the adventures more when they take place in a real world that I have to respect. Because if it takes place in some weird fantasy world where we're shotgunning old ladies to the face and burning down cultist temples without repercussions.
See, I didn't like the movie Legion.
I'm not saying that. I don't like Delta Green. Like, as I pointed out, Delta Green, which is a Call of Cthulhu fork. They literally, so many of these are solved when they just drive their bus through the building and shoot everyone inside. And it's like
I think I'm gonna go for the university. The university one.
I'm willing to make a university professor. I'll drop Jack. We lost Monos. I mean, you guys can you still hear me?
Yeah.
I can still hear
Okay,
you.
sorry, my voice thing went completely red there the moment we lost Mono. So I'm like, oh shit, is Discord going? I was saying I'm willing to roll up a new character, a university professor.
I can fit in characters here and there. Like I can imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm willing to make a character that'll fit where we're gonna be.
Oh, okay,
rather than wander in as Jack. I understand Rafferty's problem with Jack, even though I said these things to him weeks in advance. I understand he's a busy guy who can't pay attention to every message sent to him.
Yeah,
especially me, who never shuts up.
I'm not the GM. You're not asking my approval.
No, I'm not, but I'm talking to you about my character, and you seem to be down with everything I was saying. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool then. I value your opinion, Raph, and when you don't say anything, as I've said before, those who are silent who are known to acquiesce.
Silence is consent.
I said I bought 2 crates of grenades, and you're like, you're really getting into this. I'm like, yeah, Raph approves.
Yeah, I was. That wasn't me encouraging you. That was also I was.
I know you're busy. I'm not blaming you for. I'm just. When you come back after the... Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Hold on one second.